Okay, everyone. Welcome to the Romeo Planning Commission meeting for September 9th. This is the second, 2021. We are, let's see, we're going to open tonight's meeting with a public forum to hear commentary on special land use request for David Thomas, 209 North Main, and Amber and Silvio Amato at 11 North Main. They're like right next to each other. So does anybody have any comment on a special land use for those properties?
I do.
Go ahead.
Slightly a little weird because you all know where I live, 225 North Main, president of the village. And so I'm just a few doors down from them. I certainly have no objection to mixed-use building. You all know I live in one, right? My concern, and just wanted you to be considerate of parking, because we have a significant parking problem in the village. I do not know the requirements of their mixed use, if they have to have on-site parking or parking within so many feet for that use. But I know that parking is a concern, especially in that quadrant. There is no public parking lot except for around the park. So I wonder where a tenant would park. So that's my comment.
Mr. Casson, do you have an opinion on that?
Sure. On both of the issues, what you're approving tonight is the allowable use of single-family residential on the upper floors, which is a special land use. Even if you give that, they will still need to comply, and they're aware that they have to comply with our ordinance requirements relative to parking, which is 2 parking spaces per unit.
Okay.
And they would have to provide or show to the building department the number of parking that they are allowed, unless they proceed to the zoning board of appeals and ask for a variance.
Do you have any plans to do that? You do?
Yes.
Okay. Any more comments from the public? Okay, let's move on to the regular meeting then. Let's begin with our roll call.
Stegner,
Here.
Fowler,
Yes.
Grandstaff,
Here.
Smiles,
Here.
Stevens,
Here.
Webb,
Here.
Kier,
Yes.
Foltz, and Hall are absent.
Okay. Now we move on to approval of last month's agenda.
Make a motion? Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve last month's agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous, Cindy.
Okay?
Okay. Wait a minute, I always do that. I always do that backwards. That was last month's agenda. So now, approval of tonight's agenda. Anybody want to make a motion to approve it?
Second.
Okay. Motion is to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. I did the public forum first. I do this. Okay, new business. Special land use for 2009-2011 North Main Street. Anybody have any comment from the Planning Commission?
Well, Mr. Chair, my concern was the same as Christine's, Madam President, is the parking. What plans do you have to accommodate? First, how many units are we talking about?
So first floor, I'm going to leave as so mine would be the 209, Dave Thomas, the one looking to purchase 209 North Main, which is the rolling stream, I believe it's called, it's George's place. He would stay as a tenant, and then the top 2 units would be 2 total units, to answer your question. Second and third floor would be units. So looking into petitioning or asking for the variance. But right now we currently have 2 spaces. I would need to find 2 more. We were going to tackle that once after this meeting.
So the first floor would stay the commercial uses.
Yes, sir.
The second floor then would be 1 complete unit, the third floor would be 1 complete unit.
You got it.
So you'd need 4 spots, 4 spaces. Now, as I know that little cove you have up in there, you got enough for 2 parking spots there?
Yes, sir.
So, any plans to snap your fingers, come up with 2 more? Cut into the building? What do you, I mean, you're here, so
Yeah.
obviously we want to know.
Sure. What are you talking about? Yeah, this is our architect, Chad.
Sorry, guys.
We were just talking,
So you're gonna wiggle your nose a little bit and come up with 2 more parking
yeah,
spots,
yeah, that's
right?
where we are, we're talking parking.
Okay.
Parking spots?
Yeah, we had a couple folks who were curious.
I don't know if we can wiggle our nose and come up with 2 more parking spots. They're just not, they just don't exist. But I do have something, so you guys can just get an idea of the site plan. So here is, right here on the back side.
Would you mind telling us who you are, please?
Yes, I am Chad Asman from RLA Studio,
Okay,
915 Winston Circle North.
okay.
Thank you. Let's go. So you can see on the site plan, on the backside, just where it is now, but also, at one time, there were both residential units above us.
Yeah,
So even though we're going for the special land use, they were residential units at one time, because when I went in there, did some existing measurements and things, clearly there was some special roads and such.
Years and years and years ago.
Yes, and so that's why we're trying to upgrade the building. One of the things that we're looking at doing is definitely sprinkling the building. That will add a lot to just a residential unit from, you can see in the cover page 2, we also did a code review looking at, is it feasible from the building code perspective? There's also the project data of just, what it meant from, looking at the zoning ordinance. And the only, everything in the zoning ordinance would play into this being a great opportunity. The only challenge that we have is like we talked about, is the 2 parking spots versus 4 parking spots. Now, the reality is they're roughly 1,000 square foot units. And so with 1,000 square foot units, they only have 1 bedroom in them. So that 1 parking spot, as well as, the city continues to increase its parking as well as increasing its visibility. And just a lot of the great investment that's been happening in downtown Romeo, just as of late, has been fantastic for just boosting, business and also traffic. And that's been really helpful in terms of just what's been going on in downtown. So we're trying to do the best we can to put together a really good solution for something that's been vacant for a little while. And that's what my client's been working hard to do, and he's brought me on board to be a part. I have a lot at stake in Romeo. My kids go to Romeo schools. I love the downtown. I've done a lot in the city. My office used to be up in the city, in the Parker building.
We're a village, I'm sorry. I just want to.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I know it's a
I
village.
let you get away a few times, but I figured sooner or later you'd change it. Thank you.
So what we're looking at is, if I look at this right, I've got 209, these are the 2 buildings,
209, 211, right next to each other, yes.
so they're right next to each other.
Yes.
And you've got a 2nd and a 3rd floor unit
Correct.
in each. So
In
there's
each.
4 units total.
There's not 4 units total, there's 2 separate owners, but 4 units total
In terms of the
two
property,
different
yeah,
pieces.
right, 2 separate owners, that's fine. These are the 2 buildings we're looking at.
Correct.
Those are the front doors. So I got a 2nd and a 3rd on each, right?
Yes.
I'm not trying to be a smart, I'm just trying to make sure I got it right.
No, you're just fine.
Um,
In fact, I have if you want to look at 211, I've got drawings.
No, that's okay.
You
That-
figured it.
They're pretty much, I'm assuming they're pretty much all the same, and they'd have to be the building code anyway,
Yes.
correct? So you need 1 space per unit, 1 for each, so you need 4 spaces then, right?
4 spaces, no, the zoning ordinance clearly states that you have to, it's kind of tricky. It has a spot in residential where it talks about that you need to have 2 spaces for every residential unit.
Right.
Now,
Okay,
yes,
what am I missing here?
You have
He doesn't have.
Yeah,
2
okay.
units and 2 units.
2 units and
each
2
have to
units
have
and 4
2 parking
spaces.
spaces.
Okay, all right, so I am right, I am
Yes.
accurate, okay. All right, is there, are you thinking of an Airbnb, or are you thinking just residential?
Just residential.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
a residential, and whether it's most likely right now, a rental
Okay,
situation.
okay, so it'd be strictly residential use, okay.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Have you reached out to the, used to be Lots Cleaners, that building right behind you? Have you reached out to those guys at all to see if you could possibly purchase or rent?
Yeah, good question. So I reached out to, I'm playing it all, I think his name is Romeo grad. He does not have his plans in place for that place. Yeah, he hasn't even started chatting with anyone weird. So it's a ways out. I asked if he'd be open to renting spaces.
Yeah, the other thing, the ordinance also talks about the contribution that we can make to the public spaces that are in the CBD. So I know that that is also part of it, is that because of the intent of the DDA and the CBD, the village has had the extra parking spots specifically to make it work like a downtown would. And so I know that there's a section in the ordinance that talks about contributing money on a regular basis to be able to essentially purchase the public spots as part of the whole village working together. I've seen that in the ordinance. I don't know if it's applied or applies, but I did, just read that.
I may be able to fill in just a few of the blanks on Mr. Bauer's property, which he does own Lots Cleaners and the old Romeo Observer Building. Currently, he is expressing some distress at the people who are currently parking there. He wants that terminated immediately. He wants no one to park there for the liability issue. He plans to demo both of those buildings and utilize every space of parking for his development that he puts in that area. And so, because that's why they used to have 2 units there, because they did, like you mentioned, Zach, they contracted out those overnight parking spaces in that area. We do have that option in the ordinance that you mentioned for the payment in lieu of. We've talked about it at this board level before. The 2 spaces that we're talking about per unit that they have, and the lacking of 2, also doesn't include anybody utilizing the ground floor. They're utilizing the public spaces for those employees, and certainly there would be employees if they're gonna rent it out as office or keep it or a food service industry. There's still gonna be at least an employee, staff, and patrons coming and going, utilizing the public parking there. So that's why I generate the concern of, you're already too short just for the residences, not taking into account the tax on the public parking for the first floor use as well, which is not, they don't have to have that to have the commercial space. They don't have to have parking on site because we know that they can do the public parking as part of that. But we don't have that fee structure in place, something that we're working on the village level to establish a plan so that we can keep investing in finding areas to put parking. But right now, we know we don't have any, so.
Christine, I know we discussed it on this board in, I think, May or June. How far along are we in structuring that?
So I have, the DDA is having parking, 2 Walker Consultants and Row Engineering. They're coming to our meeting on Monday night. Actually, we've contracted them to propose a parking study. So what they'd like to do is actually do a catalog of all the parking spaces, how many are privately owned and how many are municipal owned, and where they're all located, so that we really have an understanding how many spaces do we have, and starting there, because we haven't had that study done, an updated one since the mid-1990s. So that's our first step. Part of that parking study would identify other potential areas where we may invest in parking. If we were to buy land, tear down a house, maybe over by the Lions Field, that's a potential. So they'll identify some of those areas that may be adjacent to our central business district that we would look to invest in. But we know that it's pretty well built out, so aside from demoing a house, we don't have a lot of options
Right.
of where we're gonna put it. But that's where that stands. The parking study is our first step.
Mr. Cass,
Thank you.
can we grant this special land use knowing that they're going to look for the variance
Sure.
down the
You
line?
have the right. I want to caution, I want to clarify one thing, Christine can correct me if I'm wrong. That payment in lieu of that's in the ordinance
Yeah.
is for commercial operations, daytime parking, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
The village would not, it it wouldn't be practical, or it wouldn't make sense if we allowed them to make a payment in order to use our parking facilities, since our parking facilities, from my knowledge, aren't overnight parking. And these people would definitely need overnight parking spaces. So there's an issue there. So the township, besides coming up with that payment in lieu, would have to create a parking lot or an area which would allow overnight parking, and that's not the case at this time.
Was that something the council is considering?
Not at this time. What they're considering is metering around the park and around maybe on Wall Street, because that's where we have a lot of permanently parked vehicles that are servicing our buildings downtown. Not for patron use, but for either owner or tenant occupied spaces.
Well, and that was an issue with Hyatt Palm as well, but we were gonna do Main Street too. That was talked about.
There doesn't
And
seem to be an appetite on the DDA to put meters in
I
along the
get it,
Van Dyke,
yeah.
per se, because they don't want it to be a detraction from people, but honestly,
And you still got
go
the
to
three-
Rochester, right?
Yeah.
People are not avoiding Rochester because people have to pay 25 cents or 50 cents or whatever it is to park there while they go and grab a burger or coffee from the store. But it's a debate that's been ongoing. It doesn't seem there's an appetite for the Van Dyke, but possibly around the park, because we know we have a problem with a lot of the employees from the post office, a lot of the other buildings, again, that don't have adjacent parking to their buildings.
because I have not so much an issue, but a situation. I'm Kelly's husband, Kelly Stevens' husband. And she mentioned tonight, I guess, that we've got a tenant or an employee parking in front of the buildings. Now, we can't stop that, and I don't intend to make a big deal out of it. But it could, I mean, they still gotta be out of there between 3 and 6 in the morning anyway, right? So, I can see what it's, I'm all for this, quite frankly. I think this is good, just the parking issue to get passed. I think it's a good idea to bring residents in to town.
I don't disagree with that. I have no concerns at all with that being a mixed-use
Right, we
building.
just need to
I think
figure it
that
out.
we need a lot more of that. It's just unfortunately that we have this parking situation, and until we have a fix,
Mhm.
right, asking for a variance, I don't believe solves the problem.
No,
It just will
no.
exacerbate it, because then it puts the onus on the village and this board to find parking for them. Where I had many meetings, and suggested that he contacted the old Fear Dot building on Rawls there, because that used to be a real estate office. So I know they had a lot of parking back there by the carriage barn. It was also suggested that Mr. Walker's purchase of the building where the antique store is, next to the chamber, that they have 24 or 25 spaces, and perhaps they could contract parking there, permanent parking. I don't know if that conversation has had place, or taken place. That's what I suggested as a fix. Like, if you can lease and find parking, then I wouldn't have a concern. Obviously, there's a concern that the lease would expire or it would be rescinded. That's what happened in the Lots Cleaners situation, right, where the new owner really has no desire to let people park on his property. He has plans to use it for himself.
So again, has the village moved forward with the lot next to the post office?
Yes.
Can you talk, okay.
Mhm.
So again, that'd be something where we couldn't let them pay for a parking spot in there because what they're in is a residential situation. Is that
Right,
okay?
unless the village council adopted a resolution that they were providing overnight parking.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to speak, I mean, having an office down in the Parker Building, my partner, Robert Lipka, sat for a while being the head of the DDA, so I know these conversations well, lived, breathed, loved, lost. But I know that what I do see is in the village is investment is coming. Things are moving forward. I would love to see no vacancies.
Mhm.
So I think that, as we go forward, just considering, how do we make that work? I was just at Sterling Heights and at a ZBA meeting. And in Sterling Heights, they were trying to figure out, because they've got the big Lakeside Challenge, what to do with Lakeside, and they're trying to figure out the same idea, how do we deal with mixed use? And, but a central business district is a perfect place to deal with mixed use. So I think that we're all about trying to help come up with solutions and figure out solutions. I know that we looked at this as step one because we knew we had to get a special land use first before we can go for a variance. And I don't think that either of my clients are opposed to trying to figure out that secondary parking spot situation, especially if it's available. But then also, it's something that we're trying to fill vacant slots, trying to fill vacant buildings. And the reality is if we, by ordinance, if they put offices up top there, we would have twice as many cars, potentially based on the square footage that are required if we put offices on like the second or the third floor. And that's what's difficult is that, no matter what, we kind of end up in the same situation of, the situation I know that's been going on for a while, which is trying to figure out how do we park, especially as both the village, Washington, and Bruce are all growing. And that's a great thing. And I look forward to working on that problem.
Well, everybody wants to see development downtown, but we do have to adhere to our ordinances. So, members, we have review standards that we'll review, and we, according to Mr. Casson, we can grant this special land use and then allow these folks to apply for a variance, just sort of push it somewhere else. So it's up to you, So what we'll do now is I will read these review standards. There are 8 review standards. We vote on each one. It's been a while, Mr. Casson. They have to pass all 8, correct? And one of them knocks them out. If there's not a majority on one, that's it, right?
That's correct.
That's correct, okay.
Before you start, Mr. Chair, can I ask Mr. Casson?
Sure.
I know you've looked at this. Have you come up with any type of creative idea with it?
Other than to find additional parking, because I would recommend the ZBA grant the variance, to be honest with you, because where are these people gonna stay overnight? Where are they gonna park? That's the issue.
Yeah.
There may be an option that they could offer that they're, and I don't know if we could uphold it, that they would only rent to single individuals, so it'd only be one person, one car, so that they might be able to make their 2-car minimum. The ZBA would have to approve that, but that would, somebody comes to visit.
Single individuals. Then.
Yeah, I mean, girlfriend comes over, boyfriend comes over, whatever.
You gotta leave before 6.
Yeah, so it makes it difficult. I mean, the best option is to see if they could explore, if they get approval tonight, to see if they could explore other options of finding parking they can lease.
Mr. Casson, the payment in lieu of option only applying for commercial buildings, is there a reason why it can't apply to residential situations?
Only because at the present time, unless I'm mistaken, the municipal lots you can't overnight parking.
It's overnight thing.
So there would not be an avenue to have overnight parking, which is what residents require.
Right. Okay.
All right, I'm going to review these, or I'm going to read these review standards, and they will apply to both properties, but we will vote on approval individually. Okay, so.
Is that just a nay or yea, or you gotta take a complete roll call?
We'll do a yea or nay, she can comment.
Well, I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be done. It's been a while, it's been a while
Since
since
we're
I
working
did
on
that.
both properties right now, we have jobs for both. I got 6 copies, I'll spread them out the best I can.
We have the same parking on 211 as we did on
Are we, it's been a while, is right. Are we, we're not required to have a roll call on each?
No.
I didn't
You
think so.
are, once you either approve or deny, each individual will have 2 different motions for each property.
Right,
And that needs to be a
right.
roll call.
Right,
Right.
that was my question. Yeah, I want to make sure, that'd take a while.
Okay, so I'm going to read the review standards, 8 of them, and then I'll ask yea or nay. The first standard is, the proposed special land use shall be of such location, size, and character that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of surrounding neighborhood and/or vicinity and applicable regulations of the zoning district in which it is to be located. All agree?
Aye.
No.
No? You know what, why don't we raise our hands?
No.
Okay, no, I suggest. No? Two noes, Webb and Fowler. Second one, the proposed use shall be of nature that will make vehicular and pedestrian traffic no more hazardous than is normal for the district involved, taking into consideration vehicular turning movements in relations to routes of traffic flow, proximity and relationship to intersections, adequacy of site distances, location, and access of off-street parking and provisions for pedestrian traffic with particular attention to minimizing vehicle interfacing. All who agree?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So that's unanimous, okay. The proposed use shall be designed as to the location, size, intensity, site layout, and periods of operation of any such proposed use to eliminate any possible nuisance emanating therefrom which might be noxious to the occupants of any other nearby permitted uses, whether by reason of dust, noise, fumes, vibration, smoke, or lights. All agree? All who
As
are
far
in
as the
favor of that?
nuisance, it would be a nuisance because the parking doesn't meet the parking requirements. I mean, you got cars parked on the street overnight.
Yeah, you know,
So then
okay.
we'd have to
Yes.
comply with, we'd have to pass an ordinance saying that for this particular situation, these cars can stay on the street all night long.
Okay, well, so,
That would be my note towards that.
okay, so all who approve? Aye.
Aye.
Approve. Opposed, Mr. Fowler. Number 4, the proposed use shall be such that the proposed location and height of the buildings or structures and location, nature and height of walls, fences, landscaping will not interfere with or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land and buildings or unreasonably affect their value. All who approve, agree, rather? Aye. Everybody, unanimous. Number 5, the proposed use shall relate harmoniously with the physical and economic, wait a minute, did I just do that one? Am I losing my mind again?
You're on 5.
That's what I thought, okay, the proposed use shall relate harmoniously with the physical and economic aspects of adjacent land uses as regards prevailing shopping habits, convenience of access by prospective patrons, continuity of development, and need for particular services and facilities in specific areas of the village. All who agree with that? Aye.
Aye.
That also is unanimous, I believe. The proposed use is necessary for the public convenience at the proposed location. That's the nutty one.
This is 6?
Yes. So I agree,
Say
that's
6 again,
fine.
please.
Huh?
Say 6 again, please.
Sure, the proposed use is necessary for the public convenience at the proposed location.
It's a single-family
It's,
unit. So
I know, well, it's from, that can disappear as far as I'm concerned. It's never
It doesn't
meant any
comply.
sense, but, so everybody, aye? Aye, okay. Number 7, the proposed use is so designed, located, planned, and to be operated that the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected.
Aye.
Yes, that. Number 8, the final one, the proposed use shall not be detrimental or injurious to the neighborhood within which it is to be located, nor shall such use operate as a deterrent to future land uses permitted with said zoning district, and shall be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance.
See, I would have a problem with that due to the future land use, because if we
You do
this
have a
now-
problem.
We
Yes.
do this now, then we'll have to do it for the next, and then all of a sudden you're running out of favors for people that you're doing downtown, and there's no more public parking anywhere. I mean, it's gonna take a snowball effect. So I'm a no.
Okay, everyone in favor?
Aye.
I'm in favor of it. And so just Mr. Fowler objected? Okay, so, the special land use passes, but we have to vote on each property individually. So, all in favor of the 209 North Main property, the special land use for that? We'll do a roll call, okay. Cindy?
Stegner,
Yes?
Fowler,
No.
Grandstaff,
No.
Smiles,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
So that one passed, special land use passes for 209. Okay, all in favor of the special land use for 211. Roll call, please.
Before we do the roll call, can I ask you a question about 211? I noticed here on the drawing you have a patio. Any way to turn that into 2 extra parking spots? In the back of the building?
So what we have is just in that area, it being just where it's at in the renovation.
Yeah.
Having the patio, we're trying to look at, it's currently a restaurant, so the idea of outdoor seating is one of those things that we've been looking at for that particular tenant.
But the space would definitely make it comply with our ordinance.
Well, I think what we'll do is, my clients and I will talk about that as we come into the potential variance for
Okay.
parking. But right now, our
Just
hope
had to
is to be
ask
able to
that
have that, yeah.
Because
our hope is to be
I
able to
like
have-
it, but it's
Yes.
in non-compliance with it.
Wouldn't you be blocking 2 cars?
Well, as long as they got the keys to both of them, she's staying overnight, right?
Okay,
Can I ask,
go ahead.
we have president here, so hopefully you can answer this for me. How many buildings in town have residents on like a second or third floor already in use?
So in my block, there are 2 that I'm aware of. Obviously mine at 225, and next door at Main Street, they have tenants up there.
Okay.
There's nothing on our corner that I can think of. I mean, Bill's buildings don't have the
There's,
second floor.
yes.
I mean, they have second floor, but they don't have
Above Sherry's Antique.
residential.
Above Sherry's Antique is an apartment.
That's right, you're right.
Yes.
I take that back.
And then there are
That's
several
Jesse.
that are above, in the,
Pet
se-
Manor.
I'm sorry.
In the Pet Manor complex.
Yes, but I was referring to the block that's above, the dance studio,
Right.
above, now it's Haven Orthodontics, right? There's a
Right.
unit up there. I believe there's one above the office pub, so there are
Oh,
several.
you're talking that, yeah, the
Right,
southwest part.
in the
right.
southwest quadrant. And I don't know that there are any residential in the southeast quadrant.
I don't think.
I
yeah,
think
don't
they're all
so.
above the carpet store and above Denny's.
Yeah.
Denny's
I don't
has
think
one.
there are any.
Denny's has one, don't they?
Oh, okay, right on in the Lafayette, corner building of Lafayette would be residential. So, there are a handful.
All right.
Most of the units that are in the PNC Bank quadrant, that we mentioned above the dance studio, there's some above the building next to the police department, right, there's
Right.
Bill Parker's building. He owns spaces in the back of the municipal lot that's off the side of Rawls. So they contract parking with him. He allows their tenants to park there for overnight parking. In my block, I have 3 spaces, and I allow my next door tenant to utilize one of mine, which I don't charge him any rent for, by the way, but, so I have 3 for my quadrant. I don't know about the building on the corner of Lafayette, the new art gallery, so I don't know where they park. But there is private parking, I believe, behind FAMS and that building, but the Vidal building, I think is what it's called, right? Yes. So that's where they all park for now, that I'm aware of. Does that answer your question?
So we are at present, we have issued exemptions or special use or whatever you want to call for all of these places, or is this, that's the way it's been, and
Well, I-
Because those building owners in that quadrant own that lot, I don't think there's an issue.
Right.
So-
I got a special land use for my building, I had to come before the planning commission when I switched to the second floor residence. But I didn't have to get a variance because I own 3 parking spaces along with 225 North Main Street. So I met the requirement. And the
Alright.
parking spaces that are on their 2 units are double stacked parking spaces, so they're not side by side. So, just bear that in mind. When we talk about an obstruction into the alleyway coming in between the barber shop and the old Lots Cleaners building, I wouldn't want anybody sticking out, right? If they're trying to double stack 2, a pickup truck like you have, right? Gonna take up a lot more space than the Jeep that Jim drives, that's all.
My Jeep with the flat tire. All right, at this time, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote to approve or deny the special land use for 211 North Main. Cindy?
Stegner,
Yes.
Fowler,
No.
Grandstaff,
no.
Smiles,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
yes.
So special land use for both properties has been approved. And I hope you find good luck there at the ZBA, so. I hope the village, I hope we can get some of this parking solved.
We are working on it, so it's my goal.
I mean, I lived in a place downtown, and it was a constant battle trying to, tickets and stuff like that, so. Okay, our 4th item for new business is the Vito Pampalona Jr. Site plan extension request. Is he here? Are you here? No.
No, he's not here.
He's not here. All right, so, Mr. Casson, is there, I don't have any, I've never had this request.
Okay, well, typically, when these requests have come to other planning commissions I've worked with, the petitioner is available to explain why it's taking so long and to ask for an extension and give, how much time he needs.
Uh-huh.
I would suggest that it be tabled until he comes back.
Make a motion that we table it?
Second.
Support? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. The motion passed, so we've tabled that. Okay,
Excuse me,
yes,
that was Mr. Webb that seconded that?
I think so, yes. You seconded that motion, yes.
And also, is that something that, I can reach out to Vito, so is that something that I should propose to him, that he should come
He
to the
needs to
next
be at the
meeting?
meeting where this is discussed.
Okay.
Certainly.
All right,
He
thank you.
was in no hurry, was he? I mean, obviously not.
Well, no, he just wanted to make sure it didn't just lapse,
Okay.
so he wouldn't
I
have
don't
to
know if you can get the people out of the one house
to go through
with
it
everything
again.
that's been going on.
Yeah.
I noticed that it seems like the first house to the south is vacant, appears to be, I didn't, but the house to the north appears that there's people in there.
Well, he must know something, or had some,
The
I
way,
mean, I don't know, but
you just can't kick some people out right now,
that's true.
so.
It's been sort of a tough year. I believe he reached out to me and said that this last year was obviously not a good business year for him to promote his.
Hey, I haven't. Okay, I'll ask for unanimous approval to adjourn this meeting.
All right.
Any
Aye.
objections? Okay, we are then adjourned. Thank you, everyone. I haven't seen my family in